Okay. 2 பேப்பர் எல்லாருக்கும் போடும். 2 பேப்பர்ல ஒரு பேப்பர் போட்டுக்கணும் முதல்ல. Okay. Section B, case studies, which consists of 120 marks. Okay, 120 marks. This 120 marks requires a practice of at least 5 years practice in consistent form. 5 years, that means at least 10 minutes practice per day. 10 minutes. But more than that, it need an attitude. It need an attitude of viewing everything that occurs as a case. Okay. Okay, like to provide a framework of only 15 minutes. A effective framework. It depends upon the application of that framework. First, a case studies should have an approach. How to approach a case? Approaching a case that leads that influences the change in the quality of our presentation. A approach to the case. That means it need a shift from our traditional approach. A traditional approach of preparing civil services that we always make ourselves to stand in theoretical, as it is mentioned in the text, as I studied in that text, as I read in that text, like that. This is completely practical. Completely a practical approach that should be strongly affirmed in your mind that you are not the student or the aspirants dealing with the case. You are a managerial incumbent or a civil servant dealing with the case. That means an approach of administrative reality. Administrative reality. See, naturally, I states that the people who are already working in the government services, as in the group 2, group 3, group 4, have a natural innate advantages in that, because they deal with the cases in practical. That means administrative reality, everything that has to deal with the reality of the case. You see, the CGP protest occurred in the Jantar Mandir. CGP protest over the question paper leak. Question paper leaks all occurred in, even while the protest going on, it occurred in the Jharkhand, it occurred in Punjab, even in Kerala. But the CJP party and leadership never mind, neglected that. So the reality of the protesters politicized mobilization. That is the reality. Let's say reality. So it requires any case to be approached with the sense of reality. What is the reality of that? Some facts of reality that we cannot provide which don't have the legitimacy. Some aspects of reality which don't have their legitimacy. Even, but requires morality. You say CGP protest has been organized, mobilized, but never restricted the criminals to take part in that. Certain criminals even associated in the POSCO, having the POSCO Act charges on them, participated in that. So it is some facts that don't add the legal legitimacy, but it depends more on the morality. So an approach to the case is of being an officer, understanding the reality of the administration. People who are already in services have this approach. They know what is the hindrance of that particular case, but they couldn't give the official legitimacy of documenting it. So first is an approach of administrative reality. Then the second one is the constitutional morality. Constitutional morality is the cornerstone of an attitude of resolving any case. The constitutional morality. That means our approach and our act of giving legitimacy to any fact, our act of any action to deal with it, which requires the constitutional concurrence. Constitutional morality, which deals with the rule of law, which deals with the equality before law, equal protection of law. That means within the framework of law and the constitutional values. Then the second one is third very important one. That approach, we should have the conscience that we are not the authority. We are not the authority. We are just steward. Just steward. The steward of the steward of this authority. The stewardship. That means the stewardship. We are not the ultimate authority. We are just stewards. We are sitting in that seat. We are sitting in that. That is, it is not authority. That means responsibility. Responsibility of taking action and responsibility of dealing with the problems, also with the sense of answerable accountability. The later. Three important principles of approach of any case. The three principles of approach of any case that should be in our conscience. Three principles of approach. Then how to explore the case. Exploration of the case. The exploration of the case, that means reading the case. Reading with that, it requires to devote at least 5 minutes of reading the case, of 3-layered reading. That is the first reading. The first reading of the case. The first reading that we have to recognize the facts on the facts of the case. We have to recognize the facts of the case, the facts on the players of the case, the facts on the players of the case, the facts on the players of the case. The facts, that means the personalities. The personalities, it is not the name That is, the personalities of being, the status and positions and the role and the status. Personalities means the role and the status. That means the personalities that maybe the ordinary citizen, some cases that placing ourselves as the personality and dealing with others. So these are all the personalities and the apparent facts of the case. Apparent facts means administrative failure, maybe a maladministrative act, an act of maladministration, an act of corruption, an act of favoritism. That is the apparent failure of the case. Then the second reading of the case, the second reading of the case, the second reading, that means second reading that deals with the insight of the problem, the insights of the case. The insights of the case, that means it has to deal with the core, it has to deal with the mode of operation, modus operandi, or the mode of operation, and it has to deal with the core, the modus operandi, the victimization of the case, the victimization of the case, then victimization, and what is the problem that leads to the third reading. The third reading is the conclusive reading of understanding the basis of the issue, whether it is an ethical dilemma, understanding the issue that deals with the ethical dilemma, or crisis, a crisis of conscience, ethical dilemma, a crisis, a collapse, or the resonate crisis, collapse. That we have to get into 3 layers of the readings, which requires 5 to 7 minutes of the reading. 5 to 7 minutes of reading to understand. Then application, that is the point. That means application that marks our act of answer. Application. First one is the facts. The facts of application. The facts, which means that means the nature of the case. The nature of the case, whether the case deals with the maladministration, whether the case deals with the external pressure. Then the second one is stakeholders of the case. Nature of the case should be a brief introduction. A brief introduction. And stakeholders of the case. In stakeholders, it should be the victims. Victims should have the priority. The stakeholders, the victims should have the priority. The victims, then the institutions, victims, institutions, the offenders, under act of miscarriage, that means resonant or collapse of the values, that has to be taken. Then the that is important, should be the solutions. The solutions that you are suggesting, the solutions should that you are suggesting would be in three choices. The choices of the solutions. The choices, simply. The choices. One is choice of compliance. Compliance to the procedures. Compliance to the standard protocols. Restoring the procedures, restoring the protocols. That should be the compliance. Then the extreme one is of your overreaching solution. Overreaching solution. That means beyond the procedures. That means unprecedented one of acting against to the procedures. It may be an act of extreme, it may be an act of extreme emotions. Extreme emotions. Any cases of testing the emotional intelligence should have a overreaching arm. And in between them, balance. The three choices. In between them are the balance of the three choices. Three choices. That is a framework of your answer. That's the framework of the answer. If the questions are the framework of the answer, if the question, if a case requires a directed answer with certain questions, directed questions means also should represent the first two should be the brief and the third one should be the more. And the attitude of our answer, the attitude, what the answers should the attitude of the answer. It is simple. This determines the marks. Attitude of our answer. Attitude of our answer is very simple. Your attitude is based upon your understanding of section A. Based upon the understanding of your section A. The attitude of our answer. Any cases that deals with the human dignity. Any cases that deals with the human dignity, all your justifications should be in the lines of virtue ethics. In the lines of the virtue ethics. The case has to be judged. The case has to be judged in the lines of in the lines of certain virtues of the humanity. The virtues of compassion, virtues of the compassion and others. Then any case that deals with the institutional moralities, if a particular institutions or organizations, corporate organizations, your approach should be based on the Kantian ethics of categorical imperatives. Categorical imperatives. There are Immanuel Kant. It was the Immanuel Kant who stated that there exist certain maxims of the universalities. Certain maxims of the universalities that any human individual shall not violate. It should be in the lines of Kantian ethics. should be in the lines of the canteen ethics. Any case that we are dealing with the welfare activities, welfare programs, management of welfare, rehabilitations, welfare, any cases of welfare activities which has to be dealt with, the principle of social justice, the principle of social justice, John Rawls, principle of social justice. That means removing the veil as the principle of the social justice. That is important, the important one. Any case of estimating a welfare program, interventional program, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, interventional program, government programs, any case of the developmental program, any case of the developmental program as like the assessment of the development should be in the utilitarian, ethics point of view, That should be the case. That's the approach. Then dealing with the cases of particular things that should have our anchor points, certain anchor points of dealing with some particular cases. The particular cases as the cases of the human dignity, the cases of the human dignity, the cases of the social justice, the cases of the social justice, the cases of the human dignity, the cases of certain principles of democratic rights, the principles of liberty, there should be an anchor points of our arguments, justification. If any victims are dealing with the problem of human dignity, principles of liberty, that means the anchor points of the values, anchor points of the certain values, the values as the compassion, the values of compassion, the values mainly of the compassion. That means it deals with the virtues, the compassion, the justice, compassion, the justice, the value of the honesty, integrity and fortitude, integrity and the fortitude, integrity and the fortitude. Any case that dealing with the anchor points that deals with any organizations, institutions, public offices, institutions, public offices, where the anchor point that has to be mentioned, that is the Nolan Committee. The Nolan Committee framework of values as the leadership, Nolan Committee framework of values, Logia, leadership, objectivity, selflessness, honesty, integrity, accountability should be the aspect. This should be the framework of the case. Every case that if you are subjected to uh, subjected to with the guidelines of 1 hour 1 hour guidelines dealing with every case. It is very hard to recall. There are certain posts on the milestones, certain posts on the milestones. First is approach. First one is the approach. Second one is exploration, readings. Third one is the application. Application is facts, stakeholders, choice of solutions. Stakeholders, the choice of the solutions. Choice of stakeholders, issues, choice of solutions. And anchor and our attitude. Attitude is in the lines of virtue ethics, in the lines of the categorical imperatives, that is universal. Apart from this, some of the cases that deals with the deals with the different professions. Some cases deals with the health problem, medical problem. Some cases deals with the legal problem, judicial problems. Some cases deals with the trade problem, in which the professions that deals with applied ethics. Every application of every field, every domain having its own ethics. Every domain has its own. A military domain means military ethics. Medical domain means medical ethics in that. So this should be the guidelines. This should be the guidelines. The guidelines of dealing with the case. Guidelines of dealing with the case. Let me go for the first case. எனக்கு ஒரு பேப்பர் அதெல்லாம் போதும், அப்போதும் எது போட்டுங்களா அது போட்டு. First case, 2024 question paper. Dr. Srinivasan is a senior scientist working for a reputed biotechnology company known for his cutting-edge research in pharmaceuticals. Dr. Srinivasan is heading a research team working on a new drug aimed at treating a rapidly spreading variant of a new viral infectious disease. யாராவது படிங்க. நான் டிஃபன் பிரேக்ஃபாஸ்ட் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டாக்டர் ஸ்ரீனிவாசன் இல்லை இவங்க நானே படிக்கிறேன் இவங்க ஆன்லைனில். Dr. Srinivasan is a senior scientist working for a reputed biotechnology company and known for the cutting-edge research in the pharmaceutical. Dr. Srinivasan is heading a research team working on the new drug aimed at treating a rapidly spreading variant of a new viral infectious disease. The disease has been rapidly spreading across the world, and the cases supported in the country are increasing. There is a huge pressure on the Dr. Srinivasan's team to expedite the trial for the drug, as there is a significant market for it, and the company wants to get the first mover advantage in the market. First company Company intention is to have the first mover advantage in the market. Here the stakeholders of the case is the company. During a team meeting, some senior team members suggest some shortcut for expediting the clinical trials for the drug and for getting the requisite approvals. These include manipulating the data, company's intention, okay, to exclude some of the negative outcomes and selectively reporting the positive results. Positive results. Foregoing the process of the informed consent and using compounds already patented by the rival company. Kutram mela kutram. Process of informed consent using compounds already patented by to exclude some of the negative outcomes. Foregoing the process. Rather than developing a new own component, Dr. Srinivasan is not comfortable taking such shortcuts as the same time. He realizes the meeting the targets is impossible without using these means. He realizes the meeting the targets is impossible without these means. Okay. Who are the stakeholders here? The nature of the cases deals with the issues of the professional ethics of pharmaceutical ethics of dealing with the clinical trials. The cases, the issue here is ethical dilemma for a scientist. A dilemma between company's profit and the ethical confirmations. Company's profit and the ethical confirmations. The case deals with the concerns over violating the procedures of the clinical trials. Okay. The procedures, one is the shortcuts procedures in the form of one, manipulating the data. Second one is forging the compounds used, forging the patented compounds. Question here is, what would you do in such a situation? What would you do in such a situation? Any problem of institutional, organizational procedural deviance, violations of the ethical violence means our choice should be in the form of categorical imperatives. Say what you will do in such a situation. The situation is of ethical dilemma. Say more than the ethical dilemma is the crisis of conscience. Situation is the crisis of the conscience. The crisis of the conscience. Whenever the problem of crisis of conscience means our act should be inner call of the conscience. The resolution should be in the form of in the lines of inner call of the conscience. It is the inner call of the conscience that we should not deviate. We should not get deviated. All the epics of moralities implicitly undermines the inner call of conscience. Implicitly underlines the inner call of conscience. When Draupadi was dragged and disrobed of her cloth in the disrobed her cloth in the court of Dhritarashtra. Entire story centered with that event. Act of Duryodhan, giving orders to his deputy, to his brother, with hesitation inside. Epic describes that his act is not spontaneous, but his orders are coming with some hesitative orders. Because his inner call of conscience suggesting him not to do. That was later recalled by him when he is dying. When he is dying, he is confessing to Krishna. Some inner call stated me of not to do. So in case of the crisis of conscience, an actor has to act by the inner call of conscience. Examine your options and consequences in the light of ethical questions involved. What are the ethical questions involved here? Ethical questions involved. One is the crisis of conscience. Then the second one is ethical dilemma for the responsible researcher. Third one is the value, human value here. Value, that means a oversight on the clinical trial is a question of human value. Question of the human value or the ethical questions. How can the data ethics and the drug ethics save humanity in large? Data ethics and the drug ethics save humanity in large in such a scenario. How can data ethics and the drug ethics save humanity in large? Drug ethics is a stringent conformment to clinical trials. Then second one is drug ethics should be based on fair and legitimized procedure. Drug ethics depends on attitude. Attitude of the drug is of the human lives, not of making competitive profits. That is the drug ethics. Then drug ethics is of conforming to the wisdom of patent laws. Conforming to the wisdom of the patent laws. Drug ethics. Data ethics as data ethics, the importance of the data ethics. One is data ethics is known for the ethics of privacy and secrecy of avoiding leakage. That means secrecy and privacy. Data ethics is depend on secrecy and privacy of prohibiting the leakage that may lead to manipulations. that may lead to the mass manipulations and the misuse. Okay. Okay. First case. So randomly you go for paper 5. Randomly go for the print is randomly you go for paper 7, 2017. You are the manager of a spare parts company A, and you have to negotiate a deal with the manager of a large manufacturing company B. The deal is highly competitive, and sealing the deal is critical for your company. Deal is being worked out for over a dinner. After dinner, the manager of the manufacturing company B offered to drop you at the hotel in his car. On the way to the hotel, he happens to hit a motorcycle, injuring the motorcyclist badly. You know the manager was driving fast and lost control. The law enforcement officer comes to investigate the issue, and you are sole witness to it. Knowing the strict law pertaining to the road accidents, you are aware that your honest account of the incident would lead to the prosecution of the manager, and a consequence, the deal is likely to be jeopardized. Which is of the immense importance to your company? What are the dilemmas you are facing? Come. What are the dilemmas you are facing? What are the dilemmas? Here the stakeholders are the representatives of the two companies. The nature of the case is the ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemma and the question of human values. What are the ethical dilemmas here? What are the ethical dilemmas?
Personal values versus institutional values.
Personal interest versus
institutional. Personal values versus institutional interest.
Public interest. Personal values versus public interest. Personal values versus Samaritan value. Samaritans. The Samaritan value. The Samaritan value. That's the case. What are the critical dilemmas? What will be your response to the situation? What would be your response to the situation? What will be your response to the situation? What will be your response to the situation? As the case deals with the human values and human dignity, our response should be based on the virtues. Based on the virtue, in that the choice of decisions depend upon the victim of the accident. Okay. You are a young, 2016, you are a young, aspiring, sincere employee in the government office, working as an assistant to the director of your department. Sincere employee in the government office, working as an assistant to the director of your department. Since you have joined recently, you need to learn and progress. Learn and progress. Luckily, your superior is very kind and ready to train you for your job. He is very intelligent and well-informed person, having the knowledge of various departments. In short, you respect your boss and are looking forward to learn a lot for him. Since you are good tuning with the boss, he started depending on you. One day, due to ill health, he invited you at this place for finishing some urgent work. You reached his house, and before you could ring the bell, you heard shouting noises. You waited for a while. After entering, After entering the house, the boss greeted you and explained the work. But you are constantly disturbed by a crying of young woman. All are cinematic cases. Young woman, a crying of a woman. At last, you inquired with the boss, but his answer did not satisfy you. Next day, you are compelled to inquire further in the office and found out that his behavior is very bad at home with his wife. He also beat up the wife. His wife is not well educated and is a simple woman in comparison to her husband. You see that though your boss is nice person in the office, he is engaged in the domestic violence at home. In such a situation, you are left with the following options. Analyze each options with its consequence. Options A, just ignore, think about it because it is their personal matter. Option B, repost the case to the appropriate authority. Option C, your own innovative approach towards this situation. What is your option? What is your option? Analyze each option with its consequences. Analyze each options with its consequences. Just ignore thinking about it because it is the personal matter as an option. Ignoring is an option. Ignoring is an option. It's not the principle of ethical mind. It's not a principle of the ethical mind. A ethical mind should be the basis of my career. A ethical mind is altruistic, and it is anchored with the values. Anchored with the values. Ignoring the case, ignoring the matter means what is the consequence? The culmination of the domestic violence. Then ignoring the case means it also leads to a condition of guilt of serving under him. Condition of the guilt of serving under him. That is the reality. That is the reality. But our innovative approach to say that is our reality. But interfering into their matters is against to the constitutional moralities. Against to the constitutional moral. Then repost the case to the appropriate authority. Repost the case to the appropriate authority. Referring the case to the appropriate authority is a balanced ethical action. A balance. What is the consequence? That means reporting the case to the appropriate authority. That means that is the public. That is police. Appropriate authority. That is the police. A police on the domestic violence, which brings the legal action. And it brings the legal action, which may leads to misunderstanding, personal misunderstanding, but the solution of the action would establish a conducive atmosphere. Then your own innovative approach towards the situation. What is your innovative approach towards the situation? What is the innovative approach towards the situation? Innovative approach towards the situation. Having the privilege of reverse counseling, then having the privilege of directions with the threat of reporting to the public authorities, with the threat of the reporting to the public authorities. Then revisit to the family for an amicable solutions. Okay. 2013, page number 9. இன்னொரு காப்பியா? ஓ, உங்களுக்கு அது இல்லையா? ஸோ இப்போ உங்ககிட்ட இருக்கிற இதை பாருங்க. அப்போ பேஜ் நம்பர் 1, பேஜ் நம்பர் 2 பாருங்க. பேஜ் நம்பர் 2, செகண்ட் கேஸ். உங்ககிட்ட இருக்கிற பேப்பர்ல பாருங்க. இல்ல, உங்ககிட்ட இருக்கு இல்லையா? பேஜ் நம்பர் 2, செகண்ட் கேஸ். A landslide occurred in the mid of the night, 20th July 2023, in the remote mountain hamlet approximately 60 kilometers from Uttarkashi. The landslide was caused by the torrential rain and has resulted in the large-scale destruction of the property and the life. As you or a district magistrate of that area have rushed to the spot with a team of doctors, NGOs, media, and the police, along with the numerous support staff to oversee the rescue operations. A man came running to you with a request for urgent medical help for his pregnant wife who is in labor and is losing blood. You directed your medical team to examine his wife. They return and convey to you that this woman needs blood transfusion immediately. Upon inquiry, you come to know that a few blood collection bags and the blood group test kits are available in the ambulance accompanying your team. Few people of your team have already volunteered to donate the blood. Being a physician, you are graduated from the AIMS. You know that the blood of transfusion needs to be procured only through the recognized blood bank. Your team members are divided on this issue. Some favor transfusion and while others oppose it. The doctors in the team are all ready to facilitate the delivery provided they are not penalized for the transfusion. Now you are in the dilemma. Your professional training emphasizes on prioritizing the service to the humanity and saving the lives of the individual. What are the ethical issues involved in this case? What are the ethical issues involved in this case?
Procedural conformity versus
Dilemma kekla. What are the ethical issues involved? One is the issue of human life of mother, life of the mother. Then the second one is mother and the administrative responsibility of prohibiting maternal mortality. Then second issue is the professional ethics of being a doctor in that. It's a dilemma between
procedural conformity versus value of life.
Procedural conformity, immediate necessity of life. In case of dilemmas, while explaining the dilemmas, that we have to place priorities. We have to place the priorities of the values. In case of the dilemmas, it need the priority. The priority means the outmost priority is the human life. Outmost priority is the human life. Then human dignity. Then priority is institutional procedural system. Okay, categorical imperatives, institutional procedural systems. Then priority is compliance. Priority is of hierarchy. One is the life and liberty is the topmost priority. Life and liberty is the topmost priority. Then the anchored values are the priority. Then the morality is then compliance. These are the hierarchy. And the ethic, evaluate the options available to you, being the district magistrates of that area. What are the options available to you? Options available to you to utilize our own blood reserve. Our own blood reserve is already tested. If the accident occurred to the team, they may be using that. The same blood is going to be transferred. Options available to you is one is overreaching approach. An overreaching approach because of the priority of the human values, priority of the value of life of the mother. Okay. Okay. So this is the framework. A framework, first an approach of being an administrative officer. That is administrative reality, constitutional morality, then stewardship. We are responsible, we have to act, and we are answerable for our action. That is stewardship. Then is reading. While the reading itself, you can acknowledge the nature of the case. In the nature of the case, we should have a preset attitude, predisposition position, whether we are to deal with the virtue lines or categorical imperatives or the question of social justice and utilitarian or the applied ethics or the applied ethics. Then in that we have to at the utmost decisions while weighing the values that there should be certain anchors of our stand. While answering our action, we should have the anchor points. Then the solutions are the three degrees, three categories. Compliance, then the overreach, then the middle way. That's all. Okay. ஏதாவது ஒரு கேஸ் ஒர்க் பண்றீங்களா? ஒரு கேஸ் எழுதுறீங்களா? ஒரு கேஸ். ஒரு கேஸ் அவ்வளவுதான். இந்த இடத்துல வந்து ரொம்ப விஷயங்க ரொம்ப கிளாஸ் மாதிரி இல்லை. 15 நிமிஷம் ஃப்ரேம் ஒர்க் இதை ஸ்ட்ராங்கா அப்ளை பண்ணும். ப்ராக்டிஸ் பண்ணும்போது ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக ப்ராக்டிஸ் பண்ணும்போது கேஸை படிக்கிறதுல இருந்து கேஸை புரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுல இருந்து ப்ரெசன்ட் பண்றதுல. ஓகே. ஏதாவது ஒன்று ஒர்க் பண்றீங்களா? இது பேஜ் 2 2023 நீங்க சொல்லுங்க. பேஜ் 2 2023 நீங்க யாராவது ஒருத்தர் சொல்லுங்க. You are working as an executive in the nationalized bank for several years. One day, one of your close colleagues tells you that her father is suffering from the heart disease and needs surgery immediately to survive. She also tells you that she has no insurance and the operations will cost about 10 lakhs. You are also aware of the fact that her husband is no more and that she is from the lower middle class family. You are empathetic about her situation. However, apart from expressing your sympathy, you do not have the resources to fund her. A few weeks later, you ask her about the well-being of her father, and she informs you about the successful surgery and that he is recovering. She then confides in you that the bank manager was kind enough to facilitate the release of 10 lakhs from the dormant account of someone to pay for the operation with the promise that it should be confidential and to be repaid at the earliest. She has already started playing it back and will continue to do so until it is all returned. Severe complication dilemma. What are the ethical issues involved? What are the ethical issues involved in that? Ethical issues involved in that means our stand of our point of view. What are the ethical issues involved?
Violation of professional code of conduct.
Professional code of conduct. Fine. Then I able to understand the professional code of conduct violated by the manager. Violation of professional code of conduct. Then second one is misuse of public fund. Misuse of the public fund. Then dilemma is
Deontological ethics versus
empathy versus this. It deals with the institutions. It is not the question of human value. Heart operation can be done maybe in any chance, but not of violating the institution. Institution means categorical imperative that one should not violate. Evaluate the behavior of the bank manager from an ethical point of view. Behavior of the bank manager is absolutely overreach, and it is the behavior of ethical point of view. That means it is the behavior of violating the norms, violating the code of conduct. One is code of conduct is violated in the form of misuse of public fund, then entering into the others account. Then third one is unauthorized transfer, keeping one account as a dormant, unauthorized, and the question of transparency and all. How do you react to the situation? It is the ethical dilemma of a conflict between empathy and the code of conduct. So priority of the values. Priority of the values means liberty and the life and liberty, then dignity, then categorical imperatives. It is not the question of life and liberty. It is the question of categorical imperatives of violating the universal values. So disciplinary actions has to be taken. Our empathy or our sympathy to the aggrieved cannot be compromised, may lead tantamount to favoritism. So it is a disciplinary action of withholding the institutional integrity of our organizations. Okay. ஒரு கேஸ் நீங்களே பேஜ் 3 இருக்கா? அதுல இருக்கும் பேஜ் 3 யாராவது படிங்க. இதை நான் படிக்கிறேன். இது நீங்க சால்வ் பண்ணுங்க. You have just been appointed as Additional Director General of the Central Public Works Department. Just been appointed. Chief Architect of your division, who is to retire in 6 months, is passionately working on very important project, the successful completion of which would earn him a lasting reputation for his rest of his life. A new lady architect, Seema, trained as a Manchester School of Architecture, trained at Manchester School of Architecture, UK, joined as a senior architect in your division. During the briefing about the project, she made some suggestions which would not only add value to the project but also reduce completion time. This made the chief architect insecure and he is constantly worried that all the credit will go to her. Subsequently, he adopted a passive and aggressive behavior towards her and become disrespectful to her. Sima felt it embracing as the chief architect left no chance of humiliating her. He would very often correct her. He would very often correct her in front of other colleagues and raise his voice while speaking to her. This continuous harassment has resulted in the long confidence and self-esteem. She felt perpetually tensed, anxious, and stressed. She appeared to be in awe of him, since he has had a long tenure in the office and has a vast experience in the area of her work. You are aware of her outstanding academic credentials and career record in our previous organizations. However, you fear that this harassment may result in compromising her much needed contribution. It is important project. It is a contribution in this important project may adversely impact her emotional well-being. You have also come to know from her peers that she is contemplating tendering her resignation. Okay. Nature of the case is an organizational functions. Then it is disrupted because of a senior's apprehension on a new professional. What are the ethical issues involved in the above case? All answers are not less than 100 words. Above case, above on the framework, stakeholders, nature of the case, stakeholders, nature of the case issues. What are the ethical issues associated with this case?
Workplace harassment.
Hmm?
Workplace harassment.
Workplace harassment. Violation of code of ethics. Violation of the code of ethics based on moralities. Violation of the code of ethics based on the moralities. What are the options available to you in order to complement the project as well as to retain SEMA in the organization? What are the options available to you? What are the options available to you?
Directly confronting the architect.
Directly?
First is overreaching is directly confronting the architect and advise him of not to do such behaviors in a professional environment.
Our options, to me, one should be balance to restore the relations. Then the second one is our options to be based on clarity, explaining the clarity of stewardship, of the persons. Our options is based on compliance to the organizational procedures. What do you respond? What would you respond to SEMA predicament, and what measures would you institute to prevent such occurrences from happening in your organization again? What would be your response to the SEMA's predicament? Your response to the SEMA's problem. Your response to the SEMA's problem is the application of the a sympathetic attitude to restore, then assisting our emotional balance, the emotional balance in the form of ensuring the workplace conditions, support to then what measures to prevent the occurrence of such happening? What measures? Strengthening human relations, then enforcing code of ethics. Enforcing the code of ethics. Then 2020 paper. Rampura, a remote district inhabited by the tribal population, is marked by the extreme backwardness and objects poverty. Agriculture is the mainstay of the local population, though it is the primary subsistence due to the very small landholdings. There is a significant industrial or the mining activity. Even the targeted welfare programs are inadequately benefited the tribal population. This is a restrictive scenario. The youth has begun to migrate to the other places to supplement the family income. The plight of the minor girls is that the parents are persuaded by the labor contractors to send them to work in the BT cotton farms of the nearby state. The short fingers of the minor girls are well suited for plucking the cotton. The inadequate living and the working conditions in these farms have caused a serious issues of the minor girls. NGO in the districts of the domicile on the cotton farms appears to be compromised and have not effectively opposed the twin issue of the child labor and the development of the area. You are appointed as a district collector of the Rampura. The nature of the cases deals with the social justice, deals with the principles of the social justice, in which the welfare of the people is our responsibility. Okay. Identify the ethical issues associated with this case. What are the ethical issues associated with this case? What are the ethical issues administrated with this case? One is administrative failure, maladministration. Maladministration is the major ethical issues. Maladministration without a long-term vision of securing their livelihood, stability of their livelihood, and also of neglect of the working conditions in the BT farms. Neglect of working conditions in the BT farms. That is the important ethical issues. Important ethical issue. What specific steps will you initiate to ameliorate the conditions of the minor girls of your district and to improve the overall economic scenario in the district? What steps do you take? What steps you take?
rescuing the minor girls from the BT forms.
ஸ்டெப்ஸ் இது இங்க கொடுக்கும்போது எப்படி கொடுக்குறோன்னு வச்சுங்க, பாயிண்ட்ஸ் டக்குன்னு கொட்டாது. லாங் டேர்ம் மெஷர்ஸ் அண்ட் தி ஷார்ட் டேர்ம். லாங் டேர்ம் மெஷர்ஸ் is the restrictive mining activities, industrial and mining activities. A restrictive in terms that is a sustainable conditions. Okay. Then second one is the measures of improving their income to restrict the plight of. Then third one is then short-term measures. Short-term measures is enforcement measures to prohibit minor girls. It is a question of child labor. Minor girls, enforcement measures. Then short-term measures of the secured workplace conditions. Then short-term measures of penalizing the farms. Then long-term rehabilitative measures for the minor girls. Okay. Okay. மேலே ஒன்று இருக்கு பாருங்க, பேஜ் நம்பர் 4. இதை கட்டாயமாக நீங்களே சொல்லுங்க. You hold a responsible position in the Ministry of Government. One day in the morning, you received a call from your school of your 11-year-old son that you are required to come and meet the principal. You proceed to the school and find your son in the principal's office. Principal informed you that your son had found wandering aimlessly in the grounds during the class time or in progress. The class teacher further informs you that your son became a loner and did not respond to the questions in the class. He had also been unable to perform well in the football trials held recently. You bring your son back from the school in the evening and along with your wife try to find out the reasons for your son's changed behavior. After repeated cajoling, your son shares that some children have been making fun of him in the class as well as in the WhatsApp group of the students by calling him stunted, duck and a frog. He tells you names of the few children who are main culprits, but pleaded with you to let the matter rest. After a few hours during the sporting event, where you and your wife have gone to watch your child play, one of your colleagues' sons show you a video in which the students have caricatured your son. Further, he also points to the perpetrators who are sitting in the stands. You purposefully walk past them with your son and go home. Next day, you find on the social media a video denigrating you and your son and even your wife, stating that you engaged in the physical bullying of children on the sports field. The video becomes viral on the social media. Your friends and the colleagues began calling you to find out the details. One of your juniors advised you to make a counter video, giving background and explaining that nothing had happened on the field. When you in turn posted a video which you have captured during the sporting events, identifying the likely perpetrators who are responsible for your son's predicament. You also narrated that has actually happened in the field and made attempts to bring out the adverse effect of the misuse of social media. Based on what is the case? What is the case? The case is Cases of misuse of the social media. Misuse of the social media. The cases associated with the crisis in relations, the crisis in personal relations among the students. Based on the above case study, discuss the ethical issues involved in the use of the social media. What are the ethical issues associated in the use of the social media? In the case, நீங்க சொல்லுங்க ஆரா. What are the ethical issues associated in the use of the social media? Misinformation. Ethical issue associated in the use of main ethical issue is denigration of the individuals. Where denigration of the individuals, then distortive facts, misrepresentation of facts, the denigration of ethical individuals, misrepresentation of the facts. Consequences, the reason is lack of watchdog, lack of regulations. Consequences, agony, mental agony, emotional crisis for the son, emotional crisis. Then for the father, discuss the pros and cons of using the social media by you to put across the facts to counter the fake propaganda against your family. Discuss the use of social media to counter the fake propaganda. Pros and cons of use of social media. What are the pros of the social media? What are the pros, positive aspects of the social media? One is information sharing. What are the positive aspects of the social media? One is sharing information. That means a medium of sharing information, effective medium of sharing information. Then merits of the social media. Sharing and reach the people, public relations. Social media can construct public opinion during the COVID, can establish a public opinion. Okay. Share public relations, share of relations, public opinion. Social media can create trust, can create the trust of opinion, public trust on the institutions, public trust. Then social media can educate the public, Then what are the cons? Sensation. This is the issue is of sensation. Then misinformations, sensations may lead to disruptive relations and loss of the trust. Any example of the use of social media? Any recent example of the use of social media? Any recent example of the use of social media creating sensations? The event CJP protest. That's the use of social media. Discuss the pros and cons use of social media by you to put across the facts to counter the fake propaganda. Using social media against the fake propaganda in the form of reinforcing transparency, then countering mispropagandas, countering misinformations, countering the misinformations. Okay. Yes. It depends upon the practice. That is the framework given. Your answering attitude depends on the case. Depends on the case. Then your solutions depends on the case. The choice of solution depends on the case. Overreaching solution for the cases of human dignity. Then compliance for the cases of institutions and organizational functions. Then balance when we deal with the issues of society and all. Okay. Then the anchor point of our answers for the institutions, it is LOSIA, Nolan Committee recommendations. For the individuals, it is the anchor of values, anchor of the values. Then the procedures for the answer is representing the stakeholders and the facts. Then elaborating the issues required by the question and answers. Then exploring the case should be at least of 3 readings and categorizing step by step. Then in overall, while dealing with the case, you have to act as a manager, act as a public servant, understanding the reality, then conforming to the morality and a sense of stewardship, of responsibility and accountability. That's for the case studies. Okay. Practice. On the procedure, but on the procedure, 100 words, 150 words. Over question 100 words. Okay. On the questions, on the symbols, symbols of recognition. The first paper second paper symbols of recognition. That's mukkiyam. And the symbols of recognition key 20% key conformity kadachata 80% marker. Okay. 250 marks ethics. Section A 125. Section B 122. 125. Romba is. Either you follow up. Symbols of particular place and directions. Okay. Or question ada பத்தி இருந்தா அது இருக்கணும் அங்க கீழ இருக்கும். Okay. Wish all the best for the ethics purpose. See you. அங்க வச்சுக்கோ. Oh, sorry.